Hello, my name's Josh. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I've recently been through a divorce. Thanks for coming back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about one of the lessons that I learned through the grieving process of the divorce itself and the troubles that kind of went through prior to the divorce. There's commonly known stages of grief, and one of those is the stage of acceptance. And acceptance is a really hard stage, at least it was for me. And by acceptance, it was accepting that I was getting divorced, accepting that I was going to be a divorcee, accepting that even though I didn't want this in my life, it was in my life, accepting that I had shortcomings, accepting that I had weaknesses, accepting that I had flaws, and accepting that somehow, some way, those contributed to the divorce. Accepting that, even though I didn't want this divorce, and accepting that I had tried everything I could to save my marriage, it just wasn't to be. And accepting that people were going to look at me differently now. Some people would pity me. Some people may not like me. Accepting that some people who I thought were my friends weren't actually my friends. In the end, it was accepting myself as I am, accepting the world around me as it is, and accepting the situation I was in. And as we go through the grieving process, it's not linear. So acceptance is something that kind of comes and it goes. One day you'll accept everything. The next day you may be depressed again. The next day you may be bargaining again. And then the next day after that you may accept everything again. And sometimes it's not even a day. Sometimes it's hour by hour. But as it goes, acceptance is part of that grieving process. And for me, it was a really important part of the grieving process. So let me explain why. But first, I need to talk about a video I saw several years ago. And if I can find it, I'm going to post it down below on my channel. But several years ago, the church did a series of videos I think it was called Hope Works. And there was one video that I watched long before my divorce that really stuck out to me. And it was a woman who was a photographer. And she talked about how she had this amazing life. She was married, she had children, everything was happy. She was a successful photographer and really loving her job. And all of a sudden, one of her children passed away. And obviously, very tragic, very traumatic for her and her whole family. And she talked about that a little bit, but how she spoke about it and the analogy she used is what really spoke to me. And I'm not a really artistic person, so I'm kind of surprised that it worked for me. But the analogy was this. She was living in a world of blue. She was happy. It was, she had the family she had always wanted. She had a career. She loved what she was doing, and everything in her life was great. And then her child died. And that threw her into a world of yellow. And that world of yellow was filled with pain and sorrow and grief and longing and mourning and everything that comes with it. And she hated being in the world of yellow. She hated it. So she tried everything she could to get back to blue, which was she tried, doubling down on reading her scriptures. She tried going to church more. She tried serving her callings more. She tried all the things that she had always done that brought her happiness before. And she realized that they weren't working, that none of them were working. And she didn't know why, because she knew that, if she served the Lord and everything she did right, that should make her happy again. And she found that it wasn't working. And she didn't know why. And she said eventually the Lord taught her something. And the thing that the Lord taught her was that she needed, in essence, to combine. She was never going to get back to blue. That was never going to happen. But what she needed to do was combine yellow, her new life, with blue, her old life. And when she did that, the Lord showed her green. And ultimately, green is what the Lord wanted her to get to. He wanted her to learn how to combine those two worlds. And in so doing, she was able to see things she had never seen before She was able to accept the pain and the loss of her child, yet accept all the lessons and the happiness that she had in her life too. And it brought her life a more rich and fulfilling view, if you will. And I remember watching that video. So the point was, as I watched that video years ago, and as I was working through this divorce process, I kept thinking to myself, how do I get to green? How do I get to green? I've heard this amazing story. I remember it. It makes sense to me. But here I am in my divorce. I'm in yellow. How do I get to green? And I would ask myself that a lot. How do I get there? And for me, the beginning of that was acceptance. It was accepting I was where I was. And as I accepted myself, my divorce, and the world around me, I was able to start seeing green. And that is part of the healing process. Because when we accept where we are, we can accept what help we need. We can let the Lord then really take over and guide us because we're accepting where we are, and then He can heal us and start the process truly of healing us. So I sit in a world now where I don't recommend divorce to anyone. It's horrible. On the other hand, I have learned so many lessons, invaluable lessons for myself, about the world around me, about the nature of people, about the nature of God. I wouldn't trade any of those lessons for anything. And I'm a much better person now because of those lessons. So, do I recommend anyone go through a divorce and everything that goes with it? Absolutely not. But I would never trade the lessons I've learned for anything at all. And for me, that all started with acceptance. So, anyways, I hope this helps. My name's Josh. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but this channel is not endorsed by the church. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I've just been through a divorce and learned a few lessons along the way. I hope it helps. Thanks.